Alright, bro.
I don't know about changing your mind, but I'd be interested to know, is there, if there is no moral difference between eating dogs and pigs, is there a moral difference between eating a baby and a dog?
A baby human and a dog?
Yeah.
No, I think so, no.
Fair enough.
Why would there be?
Alright, fair enough.
Why would there be? Why ask that question?
Well, because...
I'm not trying to catch Aaron, that's just a strange question.
The reason I would ask the question is because
both are lives.
Yeah.
Who value their life.
Yeah, so my, if you had said yes, my question would have been where you draw the line.
I draw the line on unnecessary harm.
Okay.
So if you don't have to eat pigs, you can eat something else which you clearly can. Yeah. There's a million vegan options now. Yeah. Well then, what's your justification for eating a pig or a cow or a sheep or a chicken?
Because people like it.
Is that a justification to do something? Because I'm not here to judge you, man, by the way. I genuinely not. I'm here to have conversations.
I'm vegetarian.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm vegan.
Yeah.
And I was vegetarian for a long time. It's liking something just... Some men like to rape women. Some men like to abuse children. Liking something's no... If there's a victim involved...
That feels a bit like a straw man argument, though.
I'm not saying you're saying those things are okay.
No.
I'm saying if you're saying that if your only justification is pleasure... but your pleasure causes harm on someone else, well then, is that pleasure justifiable?
It's something else. So
I'm not trying to straw man you, by the way. I'm not trying to make you say things that you're not saying.
Well, no, straw man isn't making me.
No, straw man is taking your point and twisting it into something else.
It's equating one point to another.
Yeah.
Point. So the problem I have with being some men like to rape. It's not on the same plane.
Well, no, I'm saying if you take pleasure as a justification for causing harm to somebody, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's my point succinctly. When you don't have to, if it was necessary, it wouldn't even be a conversation. But we don't have to.
Define necessary.
Necessary to survive. To eat animals to survive is necessary. Like a carnivore. Carnivores must eat other animals to survive. Yeah. So they don't have moral agency. They don't decide, oh, it's wrong to kill this animal.
Yeah.
Because they have to, or they're going to die.
Okay.
We are moral agents, and we are also not carnivores.
Yeah.
So we can survive on plant-based. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we don't have that justification.
Okay, so
it's not justifiable. It's not necessary.
What about the question of people who have very specific dietary requirements?
Well, like I say, if it's necessary, then it's a whole other conversation. But those people are few and far between. Those people are very few. So for 99.9% of
it's an edge case argument.
I'm not trying to catch you out. I know you're not trying to catch me out. Like I say, so if it's necessary for survival, it's a different conversation. But for almost everybody here in this town centre today, it's not necessary. Therefore, we're inflicting unnecessary pain on animals when we don't have to. Do you know how we kill pigs in this country, for example?
Oh yeah, it's disgusting.
I
know. My problem is with the rhetoric of eating meat is bad.
Yeah.
It puts the responsibility on, say, this guy over here, right? And the problem with that is it's not this guy over here who set up these big factories and industrialized the system and institutionalized us in a way.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. Let me answer that. I'm not here to judge people because I paid for it too. Until I was 19, then I went vegetarian, and then when I was 10 years ago, 44, I went vegan because I was given information that I didn't have before. Yeah. So if somebody doesn't have the information to hand, well then who am I to judge them? Because I also paid for animal cruelty that I didn't realize I was paying for because I was brought up in a system that taught me I had to eat animals to survive. Yeah. And I needed them for protein, and I needed them for like calcium, milk. Calcium, I thought you need milk for calcium, and then I found out, that's complete and utter bullshit. You don't need it. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here to shout at people and point fingers at people. Yeah. I'm here to have a conversation with people like I'm having with you now. Does that make sense?
No, I understand that completely. I think the issue I normally take with like this, for example, is it creates a very like thick barrier, because people see that and they go, well, fuck you, I like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Man, I run a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I have conversations with people all the time, and they're always amiable like this. Like I say, I'm not judging people.
Yeah.
Who the hell am I to judge people when I paid for it too? I'm just trying to impart some knowledge onto people. What they do with that information. My point is, if you know better, you can do better.
Yeah.
So if I give you some information and the person goes away, then it's completely up to them to decide what they do with that information. I have no control over that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But I'm not here shouting at people, I'm not here judging people.
No,
I'm only having a conversation.
I think what I'm trying to get at is like, it's more a question of how do we actively, like, or actually go forward with this? Because
how do we actively go out and miss what you said?
Like, go forward with this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, we've been like as a society, we've been arguing the meat debate for easily like 4 years.
Yeah.
Nothing's really changing. It's only getting worse.
Well, there are more vegans than before, but there's also more animals being killed than ever before, because the population's going up exponentially as well.
Yeah.
So it was like 56 billion a year like 4 years ago, and now it's over 70 billion a year.
Yeah,
so it is getting worse.
That's kind of my.
So without education, what other way forward is there?
It's not a question of whether you're educated or not. It's more a question of, it's like you'll get a confirmation bias.
Of course, there will be people who will never change. So there are people who I have talked to and have contact with that I have spoken to. They're not vegan because of me. They're vegan because of the information I gave them that they now have that I got. It's nothing to do with me. But without me being out here and giving them that information, they would never be vegan. So that's one thing. There are people who will be resistant to that.
Yeah.
Now, people have all these arguments that they throw up, like what about protein and what about this and what about that and what about the other. I can debunk all of those. Whether they're prepared to listen or not is another matter. But also I think a sign like this puts it into public consciousness. There's a dog thing over there, rescue thing today, just on the other side of the monument.
Yeah.
You know, and how many people, percentage-wise on this street, would call themselves animal lovers? Hi. And how many people here would harm an animal if they had to themselves? It's virtually none.
I don't know, because when you say animal, do you mean all animals, or do you mean like
all animals? How many people, like, say there was a pig, we're talking about pigs and dogs.
I think
if somebody was beating out a dog with a bat there, people would step in and stop it. You'd probably stop them. Yeah. Well, what was a baby pig?
Same thing, I think.
Yeah, and the same for most people.
Yeah, but
most people maybe wouldn't step in because they're scared of getting hurt, but they would shout and bring others and try to stop it.
Yeah.
But yet they're, without thinking about it, most of the time they are paying people to do things to animals they would never do themselves. So that's what I'm trying to highlight to them. You're already an animal lover. You already hold vegan values. Yeah. It's just about acting on that. And
so like the problem, I think the problem I have is, I mean, I have conversations with my friends and things like that all the time about like, you know, and more or less pretty much everyone knows how bad it is.
Yeah.
I think it's very, especially with like, you know, like Cowspiracy and things like that, very like big public documentaries that a lot of people have seen or at least know of. I think it's very much in the public consciousness.
Yeah. But you really have to, I'm going to say the word confront, and I don't mean confrontational. You have to hold a mirror up to people.
Yeah.
If I can talk to somebody one-on-one, you're already vegetarian, so you're like 3/4 of the way there. It's just another step for you to go vegan. But there's many people on this street have never even considered it. Believe me, I talk to people all the time who are like, I never realised. They subconsciously know something bad's happened to animals.
Yeah.
But society has them so trained from a young age that something humane's happening to these animals along the way, and that we have to consume them and wear them and use them, that they've just, it's like an arbitrary line that you're taught to draw. So you're taught to love dogs and cats and horses.
Yeah.
But these other animals, who thinks about them most of the time? They just go into the supermarket and left a pint of milk and never for a second think about how cruel the dairy industry is or how cruel the egg industry is. That's the problem. So, I mean, there are good people out there who are like that. Believe me, a lot of good people out there are like that. Not all. Some will be resistant. But I think the more people that go vegan, then it's going to be equate it somewhat to smoking. We have a very small minority now, but as more people go vegan, then it's going to subconsciously make other people think about why they're paying for these things, you know?
How do you make it practical? Your common Joe to actually properly go. Let's say just vegetarian for now. Because if you just cut out milk and you still have eggs, cheese, and dairy, it's not perfect, but it's still a lot better for the environment, and you have a lot less sort of.
It's actually, to answer your question, appealing to people's hearts. That's how I do it. That's my way of doing it. I appeal to somebody's good nature and what's already inside, and people already know it's bad to harm animals, so I don't appeal to health and I don't appeal to the environment for the most part. I appeal to the part inside them that already knows that it's bad to harm animals if you don't need to. And on the dairy thing, man, do you know how cruel the dairy industry is? That is the worst of the whole lot.
Yeah, but like, if you look at it just from a purely like numbers game,
yeah.
If you cut out the need to kill the animal on a cycle constantly,
yeah,
then naturally you're going to cut down that industry a little.
Yeah, but let me just tell you this, you might not know this, so can I take 30 seconds and tell you? So in the dairy industry, first of all, cows don't just produce milk, they have to be pregnant or have given birth.
Yeah. You
might know this, you might not. So they artificially impregnate them. Once they're born, all the herds of dairy cows in this country and every other country are female because they're the ones that produce milk, they're mammals. What do you think happens to the boys?
Probably killed, yeah.
Killed at birth. They killed them the day they're born, most of them. In the UK last year, between 120 and 150,000 baby boy calves were shot in the head on the day they're born, or hit over the head with a blunt object, like a spade or a shovel. And then the girls go into the industry, they're made pregnant 4 or 5 cycles of being pregnant for 9 months and having their children torn away from them, which is really traumatic for them. Once they get to 5 or 6 years old, their milk production stops. Where do you think they go?
They die.
They don't die, they go to a slaughterhouse. They should live to 30 years old. Most of them are killed at 5 years old after being exploited for their entire lives. So, egg industry the same.
Yeah, but like... So
all the boy chicks are macerated, gassed or drowned on the day they're born.
Kind of getting at is like, how do you actually move? Because the problem is like
you're going to ask me questions I don't have the answer to.
Well, that's the problem.
Because I am not a politician.
But that's
all I can do. But what I can say to you is the world's not going to go vegan overnight. It's not going to happen. The world will gradually go to plant-based or vegan because of what's happening to the environment, number one, and because of animals. So as it gradually shifts, the farmers and the companies who are producing animal-based products will shift to what consumers want to buy, which is already happening.
How do you know that that's going to happen?
I don't. I don't. I just have to hope.
Yeah, and like I think the problem I kind of find with is you have an issue of convenience.
Yeah.
It's so much easier, so much more convenient, and you can't argue this, to live on a meat diet. Like,
it's easier, but now in 2022, it's incredibly easy to eat a vegan diet. Every supermarket has vegan food.
Yeah,
every coffee shop has vegan plant-based milks and vegan options.
Yeah,
McDonald's have a McPlant.
The problem
vegan chicken nuggets and KFC and Burger King, you know.
A lot of the time.
Sorry. All right.
A lot of the time you have to sort of learn how to cook or like, you know.
Yeah, and I get convenience as a thing for people.
And the problem is, how do you make it convenient for the common Joe? Because like a lot of people will be like, oh, like I would.
Well,
I don't really know. Like,
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think it already is convenient. The perception is that it's inconvenient. But what I always say to people is, if you're coming down to convenience, what do you value more? Taste and convenience, or an animal's life?
But it is more convenient. Because like, if we go into Audi, for example.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm a meat eater, you're a vegan. You want to make a meal, right? I can go up and I go, okay, they got burgers, they got buns, I'm done. Indians now need to go up and go, okay, well, like they have this, like do they have this, and like, you know.
But every supermarket does have vegan burgers, every single one. The overriding thing about the whole thing is that animals are suffering for two options. You're going to say they're equally bad. Well, they're nowhere near equally as bad when you take the fact that somebody's been shot in the head and had their throat cut to produce one. When you can just eat the one, you don't even have to eat either.
Like, I don't think it's fair to say somebody's been shot in the head and had their throat cut because...
Well, somebody has.
Well,
that's
it's
factual.
Not somebody though, it's an animal. And like...
So there's something?
I don't
They're
know
either
if
someone.
I don't know if something's the right term, but I don't think someone is.
They're not someone.
Because I think...
But you know animals have their own personality, yeah?
Well, yeah, but like my point is, would you argue that like early days hunters, is that immoral for them to kill animals?
If they had to survive, no.
Exactly, so my point is, where do you draw the line of the value of life? Because
it's not up to me to judge. It's not up to me to judge who lives and who dies. As simple as that.
Okay.
It's not my decision who I should kill for a tasting session. You know, that's not my choice. It's entirely on the person who values their own life, how much they value their life.
Yeah.
If they want to live in peace and not be harmed, well then who am I to harm them when I don't need to? Surely, I don't agree with you that animals are not someone. I would argue that strongly with you. I think that's a very, and I don't mean this judgmentally, I think it's a very human biased position.
Yeah, so like my point, like when I say, you know, something isn't the right term, but I don't know if someone is either, that's kind of the distinction I'm trying to make here.
Well, there isn't a third option that I know of. So they're either something or somebody. And I've been around animals a lot in my life, and every single one of them has their own individual personality. They're virtually indistinguishable from human beings. They communicate, they eat, they defecate, they have a brain, they have eyes, they have ears.
But they are distinguishable.
Yeah, from each species it's different than each species.
No,
so we're an animal too. So we're different than elephants, but dogs are also different than elephants and different than us.
Yeah, but they're also distinguishable. The thing that like separates us from the rest of the food chain is what this basically.
Conversation.
Yeah. More or less.
Yeah, but whales can communicate with each other over many thousands of miles without technology.
They don't communicate ideas.
How do you know?
Because we study these animals.
Whales and dolphins are super fucking intelligent. So are pigs. You know, so I would argue that strongly. Okay, they're not as intellectual as we are. I will give you that.
So like, I think it's an idea of, I don't want to say consciousness because these beings are conscious, but like self-awareness.
Yes. But they are self-aware.
But like to the degree where you question, should I eat this? Whereas any other animal just goes, I eat this.
But again, that's a human bias position because you are picking the attribute that we are best at. We can't fly. Why not pick that? We're not the fastest runners. We're not the best hunters. We're not the best climbers. You know, so there are many things that animals, if they had the ability to, could pick and say, well, we're the dominant species because we can fly. We are the dominant species, I agree. But we're not better. And the Earth does, no. So I've given you that. I've given you that we are dominant. We have put ourselves in that position for sure, 100%. We have wiped out most of the wildlife. We've wiped out, we're destroying the environment. We're dominant to a degree where we're actually destructive.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. We are dominant.
My point, the point that I'm kind of trying to get to is like, where do you go from here? Because the conversations in the street don't really, they don't affect change on a global scale.
It affects small change. I mean, I can only talk to one person at a time or a few people at a time. That's all I can do. What else do you want me to do? I go into schools and I try and educate kids.
That's fair. Well, that's a good step. That's my point.
So I do that.
Yeah, that's one.
So other than educate people, what can I do as an individual? I work with Animal Rebellion as well, so they're trying to affect change through the courts. And to force the government to affect change from the top. So people are working from the top down and people are working from the bottom up. I'm only one person and an individual. I don't have all the answers of how we affect change quicker. All I can do is try and affect as much change that I can affect. And if I can appeal to somebody not to hurt animals when they don't need to, that's pretty much all I can do. And when I go into schools and talk to children and talk to classes, I am hoping that at some point they will grow up to individuals that are not harming animals unnecessarily. Yeah. That's the whole point of the whole thing. I mean, I know what you're getting at, and I do understand, but
I think. Okay, so
I am trying to do something, and that's.
I understand that, but where I'm sort of coming from is. So like a little bit about myself, I am a black rights activist, but if you look at that as a movement, we started with revolution, we started with revolt, like we fought, and I think the problem I have is...
We actually need a revolution with the whole system, man, I agree with you.
That's what I'm trying to get
for all oppression.
The question I'd put to you is like, how do we do it on a global scale? And you say, well, I can only do so much for one person. When I put that question to, say, my mum, we fight. That's the answer. We fight, and we keep fighting until the fucking world listens.
Well, I agree with that. I do other things as well. I do farm investigations.
Yeah.
I do saves at slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
So I'm doing as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I know people who have been arrested liberating animals. I personally have. Well, I have been arrested for liberating an animal.
Fair enough.
So I mean, how much can one person effectively do? I don't know. All I can do is talk to people individually, but also I always say to people when I have these signs, like my last sign was about the gas chambers.
Yeah.
So loads of people were reading it and frowning and walk past and shaking their heads as if to say, oh, that's terrible. Well, even if they don't talk to me, I've put that into public consciousness. People don't even know we have gas chambers for pigs in this country. Yeah. So if 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 people read that sign in a day, that's a seed planted with them. They may go home and Google that and find out information they didn't have before,
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm going to give you one of my cards, man, anyway.
Alright, sweet.
I'm going to ask you to watch one thing on it. It's nothing to do with me. It's just a speech on YouTube. I think you'd like it. He's a very revolutionary type guy. See the top one here? The best speech you'll ever hear?
Yep.
It's a guy called Gary Yourofsky. He's just a university lecturer. He did a tour of universities in America, like 200 or 300. And somebody filmed it in their phone. It's about 40 minutes long. It is literally the most powerful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Sweet, nice.
What's your name, bro?
Daniel.
Appreciate you, Stab.
Sweet.
Have a good day, man. Cheers.